You hit 30 and reality smacks you in the face. You're flat broke. And I'm not talking about that carefree kind of broke from your early 20s when you survived on cheap noodles and called it an adventure. This is different. This is the terrifying kind where your old classmates are signing mortgage papers while you're hiding from your landlord because you're 3 days behind on rent. Again. Here's what makes this moment absolutely paralyzing. You're old enough now to grasp how money actually grows over time, but you still feel like there should be plenty of runway left. You're reading articles about putting money into the stock market when your bank account is sitting at 43 bucks. Nothing adds up anymore, and every birthday candle feels like your time is running out. But listen carefully, because this is the part everyone's hiding from you. The reason your bank account is empty at 30 has basically nothing to do with your morning coffee runs or your streaming services. Those things aren't the enemy here. The real problem is this: you're trying to win a game where someone completely rewrote the rulebook 15 years ago, but everybody keeps giving you the outdated version. Let me break down the actual numbers, because this is where you'll want to punch a wall. Back in 1990, if you wanted to buy a house, the typical price was about 2.9 times what the typical household earned in a year. Fast forward to 2010 and it jumped to roughly 3.6 times. Want to know where we're sitting now in 2026? Brace yourself. It's 5.8 times. Your parents walked into homeownership on a paycheck that wouldn't even cover your monthly rent payment today. They started their careers when having a college degree basically guaranteed you a solid future. Now, that same degree is just the bare minimum to land an entry-level position paying $58,000. But hold on, don't let that number trick you. When you factor in inflation and what housing actually costs, that $58,000 gives you roughly the same buying power as $28,000 did back in 1990. You're bringing home what looks like a middle-class income, but it provides you with a lifestyle that's barely above the poverty line. The older generation loves preaching about hard work and self-reliance, but they were buying $12 work boots in an economy that handed out pensions with entry-level jobs. You're financing $200 boots because you need them to look professional for 3 different job interviews this week, and none of those companies are offering any benefits. So when some money expert tells you that you're broke because you lack discipline, I need you to really understand something crucial. You're not lacking discipline. You're playing a rigged game while everyone around you pretends everything's fair and equal. Your 20s were supposed to be this magical time for exploration, for making mistakes, maybe seeing the world. Instead, you burned through those years just trying to survive in an economy that treats you like a replaceable part and treats housing like a get-rich-quick scheme. Those student loans that promised you a better future, they became a weight around your neck. That side gig you started because your main job doesn't pay the bills, it turned into your second full-time job. You're not lazy, you're completely drained. And now here you are at 30, staring at your pathetic bank balance, wondering how you're supposed to catch up when you feel like you're sprinting on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. But here's why hitting 30 is actually the perfect moment for this wake-up call. This is where everything shifts. Your 20s were your learning laboratory. You figured out which jobs make you miserable, which relationships are toxic, and probably that buying into a timeshare in Vegas at 2 in the morning was an absolutely terrible idea. All important lessons. But your 30s, this is your money-making decade. This is when you finally have enough real-world experience to be truly powerful and enough time remaining to let your money multiply through the magic of compound growth. The biggest mistake people make is treating being broke at 30 like some kind of personal failure when it's really just a numbers problem. And you know what's great about numbers problems? They actually have answers. First, we need to destroy the terrible advice that's keeping you trapped. You know that whole thing about cutting out expensive coffee drinks and making all your meals at home to somehow save your way to wealth? Complete garbage. If you're starting from absolute zero, if you're bringing in $45,000 a year and burning through $43,000, saving that extra $2,000 isn't going to transform your life. It might make 1 month slightly less stressful, but it's not building any real wealth. When you're broke at 30, you don't have a problem with spending too much. You have a problem with not earning enough. Every single piece of standard money advice assumes you have extra cash lying around to make better choices with. But when you're living from one paycheck to the next, there's nothing extra to work with. You need more money flowing in. End of story. This is where all the budget-obsessed people start typing furious responses. So let me be crystal clear. I'm not saying your spending choices are irrelevant. I'm saying that when you're starting at zero, obsessing over saving a few dollars on groceries is like rearranging furniture on a sinking ship. You need to stop the ship from going under first. The real approach, the one that actually works when you're starting from broke, is what I call the gap strategy. Your singular focus right now is creating the biggest possible space between what you're earning and what your pride tells you that you need to spend. Notice I said what your pride demands, not what you actually spend. Most people get a $5,000 raise and immediately upgrade to an apartment that costs $400 more per month, because that's what successful people do, right? Dead wrong, that's what broke people do. Successful people get a $5,000 raise and keep living exactly like they're still broke for another 24 months while they tackle their real financial problems. Here's the harsh reality. If you're 30 and broke, you need to live exactly like a struggling college student for the next 2 years. Not permanently, not as some kind of lifestyle philosophy, but as a focused sprint. Because right now in 2026, there are more opportunities to boost your income than at any other point in human history, but only if you're not bleeding every raise into trying to look more successful. The entire landscape has transformed in ways that actually work in your favor if you're willing to see it clearly. We're witnessing the biggest transfer of wealth in history. And artificial intelligence tools have made skills that used to require years of training available to learn in just months. Working remotely means you can exploit geography. A company based in San Francisco will pay you California wages while you live somewhere that money actually stretches. But here's what nobody tells you about opportunities. They don't wait around until you feel completely ready. They show up when you're still scared, still learning, still questioning whether you're even qualified. The difference between someone who stays broke at 30 and someone who breaks free is simply whether they moved forward when the door cracked open or stood there paralyzed, wondering if they deserve to walk through it. Your real problem isn't the empty bank account you have right now. It's the choice you're about to make about the next 10 years of your life. So let's talk about what actually transforms everything when you're staring down 30 with a bank account that looks like a typo. The window for learning valuable skills is wide open right now in ways that would have seemed impossible just 5 years ago. In 2021, if you wanted to master video editing, you'd spend months watching endless tutorials, maybe pay for an expensive course, practice for a year before you were good enough to charge actual money. Today, you can learn the fundamentals of professional editing software in a single weekend using AI tutors that give you personalized guidance, then use AI tools to handle all the boring technical stuff while you focus on the creative choices clients actually pay you for. The timeline for acquiring new skills has completely collapsed. What used to demand 18 months now takes 6 weeks if you're laser focused. But here's where people completely mess this up. They learn the skill, then immediately try to compete with people who have been doing it for 10 years. Terrible move. You're not trying to become the world's greatest video editor. You're trying to be the best video editor that a local real estate agent or small business owner can actually afford and reach. That's an entirely different competition, and it's one you can dominate in 90 days. I know someone personally who went from being a broke bartender to pulling in $6,800 monthly doing video editing for local businesses. Not fancy YouTube creators, not big agencies, just local businesses that need simple, effective content for their social media. She charges $400 per video, cranks out 20 videos a month, and each one takes her about 3 hours once she built her systems. The math works because she wasn't trying to compete with the people charging $5,000 per video. She was competing with the business owner's nephew who promised to do it for free and then never delivered anything. This is the leverage point that nobody talks about. You don't need to be world-class at anything. You need to be reliable and competent in a market that's absolutely starving for exactly that combination. Remote work fundamentally changed something about geography and earning power. If you're making $55,000 in San Francisco or New York, you're basically poor. Take that exact same $55,000 to Tulsa or Pittsburgh or basically anywhere that isn't glued to a coastline, you're comfortable. You can actually save money. You can invest. You can breathe without anxiety. The opportunity here is absolutely insane. Most people are completely ignoring it because they're emotionally attached to living in expensive cities for reasons they can't even explain when you push them on it. I'm not telling you to move to the middle of nowhere and be miserable. I'm saying get strategic about this. Plenty of cities have amazing food, real culture, actual seasons, and rent that doesn't require working 2 jobs to afford. Find a remote position with a company based in a high-cost area, relocate somewhere affordable, and suddenly that $65,000 salary has the buying power of $90,000. The math is brutally simple. Your income multiplied by your cost of living equals your actual capacity to build wealth. If you're making $80,000 but spending $75,000 to live somewhere impressive, you're broke with nicer restaurants nearby. Make $60,000 and spend $35,000. You're actually winning. Pride is expensive, freedom is cheap. Now let's address the thing that's probably eating at you. You're thinking, John, I can't just uproot my entire life and learn completely new skills and move to a different city. I have responsibilities. I have relationships. I have a lease I signed. Yeah, you absolutely do. And in 10 years, you'll still have responsibilities and relationships and a lease. The real question is whether you'll also have choices or whether you'll still be trapped choosing between paying rent and fixing your car. The gap strategy isn't about becoming some minimalist hermit who survives on rice and beans. It's about making a tactical choice to lock your lifestyle at your current income level for 24 months while you aggressively increase what you're bringing in. Every single dollar of that new income goes toward three things in this precise order. 1. Wiping out high-interest debt. 2. Building a $2,000 emergency cushion so you stop getting hammered with overdraft fees and predatory loans. 3. Investing in assets that grow over time. Most people do this completely backwards. They get the raise, immediately upgrade their lifestyle, then wonder why absolutely nothing changes. The gap stays identical. The stress stays identical. They're just stressed with nicer furniture. Your competition isn't other broke 30-year-olds struggling like you. Your competition is your own future self who didn't make the hard choice right now. That version of you is 35, still renting, still stressed, still saying, "I'll figure it out next year." Every single day you delay is a day that person becomes more real, more inevitable. The actual wealth building happens in the gap. That space between what you earn and what you spend is your factory. That's where you manufacture freedom. A $500 monthly gap invested at 8% returns for 10 years becomes $91,000. A $1,000 monthly gap turns into $183,000. That's not retirement money, but it's "I can take 6 months off to completely switch careers" money. It's "I don't have to tolerate an abusive boss" money. It's options, it's breathing room. And here's the part that makes this entire thing click into place. You're not sacrificing your 30s to live like a broke college student permanently. You're doing it for 24 months, 730 days. You can endure almost anything for 730 days if you genuinely believe it's temporary and purposeful. The people who fail at this are the ones who think it's a permanent lifestyle change. It's not. It's a sprint. You keep the cheap apartment, you skip the vacation, you drive the paid-off car that's ugly but runs reliably, and you funnel every spare dollar into widening that gap. After 2 years of this focused intensity, something shifts. You're not just earning more money, you have assets working for you, you have skills the market actually values. You have a cushion that absorbs emergencies without triggering panic. You're not rich, but you're not fragile anymore, and that's the real target at 30, not wealth, durability. The alternative is spending the next 10 years hoping something magically changes while doing the exact same things that brought you to this point. Luck isn't a strategy, hope isn't a plan. The math is cold and unfeeling, but it's also brutally honest. Widen the gap or stay stuck. Those are your only two options. Let me be completely honest with you. Most people watching this are going to nod along, feel fired up for about 90 minutes, and then do absolutely nothing. They'll go right back to scrolling, back to complaining, back to the exact same life that delivered them to this moment. And in 5 years they'll be 35 and broke, watching a video titled, "If you're 35 and broke, watch this immediately." Don't be that person. The difference between people who escape this trap and people who live in it forever isn't intelligence. It's not luck, it's tolerance for short-term discomfort. The people who win at 30 are the ones who accept that the next 2 years are going to feel weird. Your friends are going to judge your choices. Your family is going to ask why you're still driving that embarrassing car. You're going to feel completely left out when everyone's posting vacation photos and you're meal prepping chicken and rice for the 4th week straight. That discomfort is the entry fee. You're paying it now or you're paying it forever. Choose wisely. Let's talk about what actually changes your situation, because I'm exhausted with vague motivational nonsense. You need 3 specific things to happen in the next 24 months. First, you need to increase your income by at least 30%, not through pathetic inflation-adjusted cost of living raises, real income growth. That means you're either getting aggressively better at your current job and demanding recognition, or you're shifting to a higher paying field entirely. Second, you need to keep your fixed expenses locked at today's level, not reduced because that's unrealistic for most people, just frozen. Same rent, same car payment if you have one, same phone bill. Third, every single dollar of that new income gets channeled into the gap. No exceptions, no rewards, no "I deserve this" nonsense. You're in crisis mode, act like it. Now here's the uncomfortable truth about income growth that nobody wants to say out loud. Your current employer probably isn't going to hand you a 30% raise. They're not. They'll give you 3% and tell you it's generous. You're going to have to make them uncomfortable or leave. The data is absolutely clear on this. People who stay at the same company for more than 2 years earn 50% less over their lifetime than people who switch jobs strategically. Loyalty is a scam in 2026. Your company will replace you in 48 hours if they need to. Stop treating them like family. The fastest path to increasing income at 30 is becoming valuable to the market, not to your boss. That means you're building skills that transfer anywhere. You're documenting your achievements. You're networking like your financial life depends on it, because it absolutely does. And if your industry is dying or has hit a ceiling, you're learning to code or getting into sales or figuring out AI workflows or doing whatever the market is actually paying for right now. Sentimental attachment to a dead-end career is incredibly expensive. Some of you are thinking, but John, I have kids, I have a mortgage, I can't just pivot. You're right, you can't pivot as quickly as someone without those obligations, but you can still move forward. Slower progress is infinitely better than standing still. A 15% income increase over 2 years is still massively better than zero. The trap is using your obligations as an excuse to do nothing while watching your situation slowly rot. Your kids are going to suffer far more if you're financially stressed for the next decade than if you're hustling hard for the next 2 years to fix it. Stop hiding behind responsibility when what you're actually doing is avoiding discomfort. And let's address the psychological block that destroys most people at this stage. You're 30, you thought you'd be further along by now, you're embarrassed, you're ashamed. You don't want to admit to yourself or anyone else that you're struggling, so you fake it. You spend money you don't have to look like you're doing fine. You finance the lifestyle you think a 30-year-old should have. This is the death spiral. Your pride is more expensive than your rent. The people who win are the ones who get completely comfortable saying, "I can't afford that right now," without any shame attached. They're the ones who drive the paid-off car and live in the small apartment and focus on the scoreboard that actually matters, which is net worth, not perception. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Your parents can't do it. The government won't step in. Some imaginary future windfall isn't happening. It's you, the gap, and the next 730 days. That's the entire game. Let me give you the actual math of what happens if you execute this plan. Let's say you're making $50,000 right now and spending $48,000. You have a $2,000 gap annually. That's not enough to build anything meaningful. You're one emergency away from drowning in credit card debt. Now you increase your income to $65,000 over 24 months through switching jobs and running a side hustle. You keep your spending frozen at $48,000. Your gap is now $17,000 per year. In 2 years, you've accumulated $34,000. You've eliminated your high-interest debt. You have a $5,000 emergency fund. You have $29,000 invested. You're not rich, but you're not fragile anymore. You can negotiate from a position of strength. You can take calculated risks. You can breathe. That's the difference between being broke and being okay. It's not millions of dollars, it's a buffer and momentum. The alternative is what most people actually do. They get to 35, then 40, then 45, always thinking next year I'll get serious. Except next year never arrives because the strategy never changes. They're hoping for a different result while running the exact same code. That's not optimism, that's delusion. If you're 30 and broke, you have 1 decade to fix this before it becomes permanent. After 40, the market gets harder, your energy drops, your obligations multiply. The window is closing. This is not a drill. You're going to remember this moment either as the time you finally decided to stop pretending and start building, or as another video you watched while your life stayed exactly the same. The gap doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about the math. Widen it or stay stuck. I want you to do something uncomfortable right now. Close your eyes for 10 seconds and picture yourself at 40. Same job, same apartment, same stress. Your friends have built equity. You have excuses. Your nephew asks why you still rent. You tell him you're figuring it out. He's 12 years old. He doesn't believe you. Open your eyes. That person exists in a timeline where you did nothing after watching this video. The only thing standing between you and that future is whether you're willing to be weird for 730 days. Not forever. Just 730 days of frozen lifestyle, aggressive income growth, and relentless gap widening. That's it. That's the entire game. You're 30 years old. You have 3,650 days until you're 40. The math is simple. The execution is hard, but staying broke is harder. Choose.